Monday morning. Welcome to First Mover, your first global look at today's action in the Bitcoin, blockchain, and digital asset space. I'm your host, Christine Lee, and joining me is my co-host, CoinDesk managing editor of Global Capital Markets, Lawrence Lewitinn. Emily Parker is off. Good morning, Lawrence. How's it going?
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Bright and sunny day in New York, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, not exactly. I had to I biked to work. I was in my rain jacket. I looked like a wet cat coming in. All right, checking in on Bitcoin. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XBX index is currently trading at $39,573. Bitcoin is up over 10% over the past 24 hours. And the CoinDesk Ether price ETX index right now is 24.90. ETH is up over 5% over the past 24 hours. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as a leader in crypto news, events, and data. And so we see that during Asian trading hours, during European trading hours, Bitcoin has been trying to breach that psychological $40,000 barrier. And we have a tweet that potentially may have been the catalyst for this bullish rally. It's from Tesla CEO Elon Musk, of course, responding to a Cointelegraph article suggesting he manipulated Bitcoin's price. Musk tweeting, "This is inaccurate. Tesla only sold about 10% of holdings to confirm BTC could be liquidated easily without moving market. When there's confirmation of reasonable about 50% clean energy usage by miners with positive future trend, Tesla will resume allowing Bitcoin transactions." So, Lawrence, is this the reason why we're seeing a bit of a rally today? Just the tweet of one man?
Somewhat. I would suspect it's this, is that you had a very thin market going into the weekend to begin with. And then by the time you hit the weekend, the volumes were low, nothing's going on. And one tweet comes out on a Sunday in Asia, before Asian traders even got in. And you just basically wiping out all the sell orders on the upside because there's so few of them. And you had this just, we talk about paper hands in the market, and that's what we're seeing. These people who kind of like, they get in, they get out, they drop, they'll sell as quickly as they bought, by the way. It did help, but we have to step back and ask ourselves, is this really how the Bitcoin and crypto markets should exist, where one tweet from one CEO affects it more than the positive news that come out of El Salvador and out of Paraguay?
El Salvador, Latin America, more and more countries in Latin America are talking about
the market
adopting Bitcoin.
They don't move the market the way one tweet does, and that's because we have too many meme traders in this market right now.
Yeah,
and that's not necessarily a healthy thing for a market. I mean, it's great to have liquidity, but these guys will drop as fast as they came in.
Definitely not. Well, I'm looking forward and excited about the developments out of Latin America. And, Colombia is ready to embrace decentralized finance while also calling attention to new and existing risks surrounding the nascent technology. And joining us now is Jehudi Castro Sierra, Digital Transformation Advisor of Colombia. Welcome, Jehudi.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to the show. So, Jehudi, decentralized finance essentially eliminates the need for banks and other financial institutions. You can automate loans, entire financial markets, and earn yields. So what are the socio-political circumstances that make this technology particularly attractive to Colombia?
Sure. We have been seeing the evolution of the crypto industry and also about DeFi. And we see a big potential there. Like for the people, there is a lot of people that is not on the banks, that has not access for loans, for instance. So we see it as a potential opportunity. That's why we work with the World Economic Forum on the document that was released last week. And it's about exactly this. What are the opportunities? What are the risks? And what the regulators need to take into consideration in order to embrace this opportunity.
Right. So, Jehudi, Cypher traces more than 50% of fraud and cyber crime in crypto is from DeFi. Does that risk concern you?
It is a risk, but it's also like a talking point that we have been hearing a lot. But you need to take into consideration that also like cash or US dollars are used for crime. So this is not particular to the crypto industry. This is very important to point out. So it needs to be taken into consideration, but it's not as specific to Bitcoin, for instance. We need still to do all the background checks and to take all the measures in order to make it safe.
So, welcome to our show. I've been forwarding your report to all my friends in DeFi and people who keep asking me about DeFi. It lays out a very nice framework for how DeFi works. And towards the end, around page 20 or so, you start to list some of the things that regulators can do. What exactly can a regulator do in DeFi, given that it is decentralized by nature? And what policy, so in other words, what policy tools can they take? And which ones would you suggest that they absolutely should do?
This is a very important question. So in general, in Colombia, we don't regulate like by instinct. We only take decisions based on data. That's why the framework of the sandbox is so important. That's what we did for crypto. This is something that you at CoinDesk have reported already, how we are doing the sandbox for check-in and check-out of funds in order to buy crypto. And this is something that we think is possible to do also to DeFi. So the idea is to work hand in hand with the industry, with the regulator, in order to apaciguate those risks that may be happening there. It's true that it's decentralized, so maybe the answer is even deregulate, but we don't have the answers yet. We need to work it in a control environment that will be the sandbox, and then according to the results, to the actual data, take the decision. What is important is that we are not going to ban it beforehand or to stop it as some countries may be doing regarding crypto as a whole. We see it as an opportunity, and we are welcoming the investment that can come from these industries.
So what benefit does a government have to encourage DeFi if it potentially comes at the expense of the financial institutions in that country?
The benefit is for the people, and not necessarily it means to go against the financial institutions, because in the case of Colombia, they have been quite open-minded about crypto, for instance. In the sandbox that we have for crypto, they are working with the banks. So it's not necessarily something against them. If they have the mindset, the open mindset that we have been seeing, maybe it's also an opportunity for them. They need to reinvent themselves, or someone else may do it for them. So the opportunity is for the people. That's what the government needs to look after. We need to look for the best benefit of the people.
Mm-hmm. So El Salvador has recently declared Bitcoin as legal tender. I would like to get your thoughts on that and whether or not you see Colombia following suit.
That's very interesting development. We are observing. We are interested in the document that they say they were going to open source called Bitcoin for Nations. So for sure, we are going to be looking into it. There are also some risks. So this is something that will not be, should not be doing like rushing. We need to take certain considerations, but definitely is something very interesting. We believe in general, like in Bitcoin, but some steps needs to be done before. Colombia, different than Salvador, for instance, has its own currency. So the situation is quite different. But we are definitely looking at those developments.
Yeah, so we see here a lot of interest from Central American countries and Latin America. I wonder, what do you think is the future of the US dollar if more countries like El Salvador and Latin America and, developing countries around the world, and this continues on to catch on, that more countries begin to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender? What will happen to the US dollar?
It's important to point out that, for instance, El Salvador, they are saying that they are not moving away from the dollar. So the dollar continues to be legal tender. So probably in the long run, it's even good for the US dollar. So I don't see it the same as I say with the banks. It's not like a competition against the banks or against the dollar per se. This is something that is, if it's well taught, if the risks are taken care of, can be good for everyone.
So, of course, we can't talk about Colombia without mentioning some of the protests that have been happening because of economic policies from the administration. There's an old say, a relatively old saying for crypto: Bitcoin fixes this. So what does crypto fix for some of the protesters who are protesting right now the policies of the administration? What sort of thing can you offer to say, hey, look, if we could get certain things through, perhaps some of your concerns will be dealt with?
The protest has some legitimate concerns because we just came from the pandemic. This hit our economy as everything around the world. Actually, Colombia was one of the countries where it was not hit so badly in Latin America. But as of any kind of investment, we see that it can bring more growth. More growth means more opportunities for the people, more employment. And these are some of the concerns that we have been hearing from mostly young people. And this is something that we are addressing. Crypto, Bitcoin can be part of the solution in the sense that they can see more opportunities for entrepreneurship, for instance, and also they can see more value on the assets that they hold.
All right. Jehudi, you tweeted out that you're very pleased to have contributed to the Decentralized Finance DeFi Policy Maker Toolkit from DeFi is a great opportunity, and Colombia is ready to embrace it. Perhaps you can go over, and Lawrence, mentioned it a bit in the earlier, but perhaps you could go through some of the key highlights from the report.
Yes, so this being a document that is intended to be a blueprint for the regulators and the countries that want to check out it, is very balanced. It doesn't take sides, but it shows what is DeFi, what are the risks, what are the opportunities, and what are the potential steps that a regulator may take. And we are decided to go through this path in order to take this opportunity for us.
And so what
of all the paths, though, as I say, of all the paths, though, which do you feel most comfortable with regards to Colombia?
What's that? More
of all the paths that you about implementing in Colombia.
Okay, it sounds like this is very new industry. So first that I feel more comfortable is not ban it, as some countries may do just for fear of something that is not well known. So that's what I feel more comfortable. And the second will be just to gather the data from the industry working together with the regulator inside a sandbox, which is a protected environment, in order to mitigate those risks. I think that's the important way to do it.
What part of DeFi do you think is not necessarily, hasn't been fully matured yet, or hasn't really grown the way you would like to see and you see opportunities in?
It's growing a lot, but still the industry is very new. I mean, and in the part where people might have more opportunities, for instance, is loans, access to some financial services that, especially in Latin America, is not accessible for everyone. So that's something that have been had some evolution this last year mostly, but there is a lot of room to grow still. That's why it's important to make it in a secure way.
Jehudi, you mentioned sandboxes. In El Salvador, we see Bitcoin Beach, where a community is experimenting with Bitcoin as micropayments in the community and seeing how that works. You know, in China, there's central bank digital currencies, and they're testing it in different cities. Do you see that happening in Colombia? And if so, when might that be implemented, and how would that look like?
That about the Bitcoin Beach in Salvador was very important for the step that they took after, because it was the actual implementation happening on the streets. So it was like a bottom-up adoption. So of course we are open to this kind of implementations here, and part of this is the sandbox that we already have around crypto. This will help to bring more adoption that is already happening. If you look in the volume that, for instance, local Bitcoin shows, Colombia is the third country in peer-to-peer Bitcoin volume, and it was before our sandbox. So this is going to be growing even further. And this will hopefully allow, but again, this is up to the entrepreneurs out there to bring these use cases that help people to use it with technology developments like Lightning. That was the key to achieve adoption in El Salvador. We see a lot of opportunities here, for sure.
All right, folks, we have a lot of people in the crypto sphere who are watching this show. If you want to get into Colombia, Jehudi is the guy you want to talk to. Thank you, Jehudi, for joining us.
Sure. See you. All right. Thank you very much.
That was Jehudi Castro Sierra, Digital Transformation Advisor of Colombia. Coming up, checking in on Asia and the crypto markets update with options analytics firm Genesis Volatility. Time now for the daily forecast, an update on what's happening in the Asia crypto markets. Here's Angie Lau of Forecast News.
Welcome to the daily forecast, June 14th, 2021. I'm Justin Solomon with Forecast News, filling in for Editor-in-Chief Angie Lau, who is on assignment. Let's get you up to speed from Asia to the world. As the crypto mining crackdown in China continues, we're learning of another pending shutdown in the country. The provincial government of Yunnan has reportedly vowed to close down Bitcoin miners that are found to be using electricity without permission. Forecast News broke this story last Friday night when we were told of an impending ban on crypto mining in the hydropower-rich province. Yunnan's energy regulator reportedly wants all crypto miners out of the province by the end of June. Forecast News has been unable to independently confirm that because it is a public holiday in China, but it seems any miners found guilty of illegal power usage are in for some punishment, and even legitimate operators are weighing their options on whether to stay or leave the province. The news from Yunnan follows similar developments in other parts of China where crypto mining has been banned outright. Meanwhile, in Malaysia, police there have confiscated more than 400 Bitcoin mining machines in the state of Penang during raids between Friday and Saturday this past weekend. According to local reports, authorities say 8 people in total were arrested over stealing electricity for Bitcoin mining activities. Those arrested at first claimed to be cleaners. Authorities are still on the lookout for the brains behind the operation. Equity markets are closed in much of the region for the public holiday, but that didn't stop the crypto markets, Bitcoin nearing the key $40,000 mark, ending the day here in Hong Kong way in the green, up 12% by 4 p.m. local time. And in the top 10 for cryptocurrency, a similar sea of green, perhaps to celebrate the Dragon Boat festivities here in Hong Kong. Ethereum was up 7.3%, sharing that spot with Binance Coin, while Uniswap ended the day up nearly 11%. And finally, there's this. India-based crypto exchange WazirX is being investigated by the government over allegedly violating the country's Foreign Exchange Management Act in transactions worth over $380 million US. Authorities say the probe is linked to another ongoing investigation into illegal Chinese-backed betting apps over money laundering. Local media reports Chinese nationals had laundered proceeds of betting by converting them into USDT cryptocurrencies before transferring the amounts to Binance wallets overseas. Reports indicate financial enforcement authorities had issued a show cause notice to the company, which WazirX later denied receiving on its Twitter account. The company telling customers that, quote, their funds are absolutely safe. These latest hurdles surfaced just a week after we spoke with the company's CEO, Nishal Shetty, and we asked him if India's central bank might issue further guidance over crypto trading.
One of the things we've seen from the RBI is they've been also waiting for the government to come up with some regulations or guidelines. Because if you look at crypto, it can behave as a currency, so maybe we think that the central bank should do it, but then it can also behave like a property or an asset, and you want a commodities regulator. So even amongst the regulators, there's no clarity whether they're even supposed to put in guidelines. They're not aware, or they're not sure whether they should be regulating it.
Forecast News reached out to WazirX for further comment, and in a statement was told that should the company receive a formal notice from authorities, they will, quote, fully cooperate in the investigation. And that's the daily forecast from our vantage point right here in Asia. For more, visit forecast.news. I'm Justin Solomon. Until next time.
The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
Time for a live look on Bitcoin. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XVX index is currently over $40,000, now trading at $40,000, almost 600. Bitcoin is up about 12.8% over the past 24 hours. And the CoinDesk Ether price ETX index now at 2540. ETH is also rallying up almost to 8% over the past 24 hours. And joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is options analytics firm Genesis Volatility CEO Greg Magadini in Chicago. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Good to have you. All right. So is it Elon who's really doing this all, or what's going on here? We're seeing New York, we're seeing North America wake up, and now Bitcoin's over 40,000.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think we're actually headed for a little bit more consolidation. We had that big sell-off in mid-May. A lot of people were hurt in that. And so we're kind of going to have to move sideways for a little bit as the market decides, who's in charge, dip buyers or people who got burned that are just trying to sort of break even or get out for a small loss. Something that we're seeing in the options space is a huge drop in implied volatility as well as realized volatility, which is really consistent with a consolidation. So, for example, in mid-May, ETH implied vol hit above 220%. Bitcoin implied vol hit above 160%, and now we're headed below 120 for ETH vol, and then below 90% for Bitcoin implied vol. So this is really consistent with sort of a market finding its footing and testing price ranges. I think that the price ranges of significance. Oh, go ahead, Lawrence.
So Greg, yeah. So is it sort of that the implied volatility has gone down because in the spot markets the volume has gone down, and basically the options traders are looking at that and saying, you know what, this thing is going to move significantly anytime soon, and they're sort of paring back their options positions.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we're actually seeing a drop in traded volumes. And a couple weeks ago, we saw. I'm sorry?
No, we have a chart on that. The June 13th BTC's contracts traded on Deribit. There's another one. the next one, the volume chart. We see that volumes are getting low. But go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So something that was pretty interesting is a couple of weeks ago, the option market was heavily discounting realized volatility. So you could see a huge gap between realized volatility and implied volatility, which was pricing in that future realized volatility was going to converge. And so we're seeing volumes kind of dwindle. This is BTC volumes that have come down a little bit since mid-May, and then ETH volumes have come down even more since mid-May. That's really consistent with a market that's sort of losing energy for any conviction on price direction. When we've been seeing these sell-offs, we've seen huge rushes to buy put options, which has spiked up the skew on the put side and made puts relatively more expensive to calls. And that's kind of like a panic reaction that traders have been having on these price dips.
So are we seeing more puts versus calls, and does that show a more bearish market?
That has been the case for the past 30 days. Since that May sell-off, the appetite for puts has been a lot more sharp, and implied volatility has been higher for equidistant puts.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Hasn't the put-call ratio gone down a bit?
I guess what I'm referring to is the skew, which is like the implied volatility differential between the puts and the calls. The put-call ratio, historically speaking, most people trade calls in crypto. It's sort of one of those markets that people want to be long, and almost all the activity sort of occurs on the call side. But for the exception of this past month where implied volatility has been more expensive to the put side.
So Greg,
so there was. I was just going to say there was recently some activity at the 44,000 strikes. I think it was overnight. Was that were those buyers of just people initiating buy transactions at the 44s, or were there or are they selling it for other options positions?
Yeah, that's a great question. So something that we like to look at a lot is the block flow on Paradigm. So Paradigm is sort of where all the institutional and professional traders go to trade options. And so we like to monitor that flow to see what's going on. Something that we saw over the weekend was actually some 40,000 to 44,000 call spreads go through. So people are buying the $40,000 calls, selling the $44,000 calls against it to sort of finance that call purchase. And another thing that we've seen over the weekend was some skew trades. So people are selling the $24,000 puts to buy the $48,000 calls. People are selling the $36,000 puts to buy the $44,000 calls. So a lot of that flow is very bullish for sure.
All right, Greg, then based on this data, your outlook on Bitcoin over the next 3 months, where's it headed?
My outlook is sideways for the most part. I mean, I don't think we trade below 30,000, but I definitely don't think we trade above 50,000 either. I think we got to move sideways. I think the market has to establish, who's in charge here, bears or bulls.
So one question I have, what the term structure of Bitcoin, what's it shaped right now? What does it tell us? What's it telling the market? And how is it telling it? And how does it compare to ETH?
That's a great question. So the term structure, which is basically the at-the-money implied volatility for all the different expirations, is pretty flat in Bitcoin. We're coming back from a large backwardation. So backwardation is when kind of short-dated options are a lot more expensive than longer-dated options. That's consistent with a high volatility environment. So the fact that we're kind of flipping away from that and going towards a more flat term structure is really consistent with transitioning into a lower vol environment. And Ethereum is still backwardated right now, but it is less steep than it has been in the past. So that's also transitioning to lower vol environment, but not as low as Bitcoin.
All right, Greg, great update. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
That was Genesis Volatility CEO Greg Magadini. Time to check in with CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day, who is also the editor of CoinDesk, the State of Crypto newsletter. Hello, Nick. Happy Monday. So we see President Joe Biden is arriving in Brussels for a NATO meeting following the G7 summit over the weekend. What are you following? There's a lot of talk about hacking and ransomware. That's been a top issue. Do you see that continuing on?
Yeah, I imagine it will definitely come up. Ransomware is kind of, it's been a thing for quite a while now, for a number of years, but it feels like it's gained a new prominence in the last few weeks or months, especially in particular with critical infrastructure targets getting hit. So, gas, meat, logistics. So my sense is, or my guess is, they will definitely bring this up. There's a lot of concern in particular about where the perpetrators of these ransomware attacks are based and whether or not anything can be done to kind of, mitigate this at the source rather than, rely on companies or lean on companies to enact better cybersecurity that's, foolproof, which would be difficult.
So Nick, it's not just Putin meeting with Biden. We also have a Fed meeting. What are we expecting out of them? Fed not meeting with Putin, but just Fed meeting amongst themselves.
I would enjoy a Fed meeting with the president of Russia.
That'd be great.
I'm curious give us this central bank synergy across the world.
Yeah.
No, it's unclear to me. What all will be expected this week. Obviously, the Fed has been kind of saying for a while now that they're expecting and hoping for a little bit of inflation as a treat. And last week, as I understand it, inflation was a little bit higher than they had anticipated. So I would imagine if they say anything, about that, they're probably going to try and, downplay, how high they see inflation going and what the long-term prospects are.
Yeah, Nick,
by the way, wasn't there I was just going to say, wasn't there something today the SEC was going to review with an ETF? Is that still going on?
We have, at this point, I've lost count of how many ETF applications we have out in the wild. I think it's more than a dozen at this point for both Bitcoin and Ether. Late last week, the SEC announced that they were extending the review period for the Bitcoin ETF application, which is, I think, what we expected. I doubt the SEC is going to have any firm decision. They're going to keep extending all of these applications at least through the fall and the tail end of 2021, and that's when we'll start getting a better sense of whether or not one of these will be approved.
And Nick, I just wanted to see if you have any thoughts on this crackdown in China on mining. Forecast had a report out last week that China was really going to crack down hard in Yunnan province. Of course, we had some original reporting at CoinDesk indicating that that report was inaccurate. So would like to get your thoughts there.
Yeah, so my colleague David Pan, our colleague, he spoke to the BTC Top, the miner that said they spoke to Forecast, and they claimed that the characterization was inaccurate. David spoke to a couple other folks, so my understanding is that it sure looks like the original source here might have been a counterfeit or a fabrication. It doesn't look like Yunnan is currently set to crack down on miners within its borders. But as Forecast Justin noted, there is a public holiday, so we weren't able to speak to the government itself. But various sources from the mining industry say that the notice is not legitimate.
Okay, all right. we'll be watching those developments. Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you.
That was CoinDesk Managing Editor of Global Policy and Regulation, Nick Day. Don't forget to sign up for the State of Crypto newsletter on CoinDesk.com. And I want to share to you some exciting news. Today marks the debut of CoinDesk on Snapchat. We'll be explaining crypto concepts and news in our new video series called CoinDesk Breaks It Down. You'll want to check out those videos twice a week starting today. And don't forget to subscribe to the CoinDesk channel on the app. That's it for First Mover. Joining us tomorrow is Jim Nguyen, CEO and founder of 6 Clovers. Thank you, Lawrence Lewitinn, Managing Editor of Global Capital Markets. I'm your host, Christine Lee. I'll be back live at 3 p.m. with all about Bitcoin. Coming up at noon is The Hash. You're watching CoinDesk TV.